Well, Sidney, it's very good to see you
Good
again.
to see you, Bobbie.
Our last conversation was when you were doing Prince of the City, which was a wonderful film. I thought sure you were going to get an Oscar nomination, and you didn't. But now this time, I really am sure, Sidney. But maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe
I don't know, you
I'm
think you're the
jinxing.
jinx? Are you the jinx, Bobbie?
Well, I hope not. I hope not. But there's so much talk, Sidney. I don't know when I've seen a film where people have come out and started saying, all right, Best Picture, Best Director,
Well, isn't that
Newman.
nice?
You're aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of anything. I've been shooting something else, Bobbie, and I just finished last Wednesday, so I've been a little preoccupied. And I finished on Wednesday, and Thursday I went out to my country place and just fell asleep. So I know that some of the reviews that have been coming in have been quite extraordinary, but I'm not kind of caught up in the excitement of it yet. I'm not awake enough.
Well, it's there, believe me, and wait till it opens. But you know, Sidney, after Prince of the City, when you did not get a nomination, and I had in my predictions predicted that you would. Of course, J. Preston Allen got a nomination. That was nice. But I started kind of analyzing some things and going back and doing a little research. Now, maybe I've drawn a wrong conclusion, but you tell me. It seems to me that the Academy does discriminate against New York-based projects.
I think that's possibly true. I think it really sort of depends in a way, Bobbie, on the kind of year they've had. If they've had a good year, they can be a little more charitable. If they've had a bad year, they tighten up a bit. I think that there's some resentment of me, only because I've never worked there. I've always worked here. And, but yet, you know, they've been, Bobby Fosse won, and Woody Allen won, and Milos Forman won. I think there's possibly a little extra awareness about me simply because, as I say, I've never done anything out there at all. And I don't know how many elements in all the pictures have been nominated. I think probably over 40. But I myself don't seem to entrance them.
Well,
but that's okay. I'm having a good time. No complaints.
Turning out good films, too. The verdict, in some ways, is similar, of course, to 12 Angry Men, which I think is one of the great films of all time. And, of course, Mr. Fonda was in that. Are there any similarities between Fonda in 12 Angry Men and Newman in the verdict?
Not really, because Hank's character in that, which was, as you remember, totally within the jury room itself, it was a guy fighting what seemed like an overwhelming situation. In that sense, they're similar. But there was never anything in Hank's character which made you think that he was at the personal crisis that Paul is at in this. I mean, Paul's favorite expression when we were rehearsing was, well, this is a guy who begins with his face in the urinal, you know, that is a broken down drunk ambulance chaser. And everything about his life is either going to change or he's lost. And that sense of desperation in terms of his own personal situation wasn't present in Hank's character in 12 Angry Men.
What is your fondest recollection of Henry Fonda?
There's so many. I love the fact that he could never bear to watch himself. And for a man who worked that honestly, who was incapable of doing anything false there on the screen. He was the producer on 12 Angry Men as well, and as the producer he was therefore obligated to come to rushes. And he told me that he had seen no more than half of his movies in his lifetime, and then usually 2 or 3 years after they'd been released. And I said, well, Hank, you're the producer, you have to come to rushes. And he came the first day, and he watched, and then he was sitting right behind me, and he squeezed my neck. He says, looks sensational, and never came again. Just couldn't bear it. And that kind of profound humility, in the best sense of the word, because he was not an egoless man. But he was not an exhibitionist. He was not... he's similar to Paul, shy. And that kind of selflessness, again like Paul, wanting to be part of a company, not wanting to be alone up there over the title. Fonda was as good as they come.
If you were doing 12 Angry Men today, would you put Newman in it?
Absolutely. What an interesting idea. Absolutely. He's sort of a natural inheritor, in a way, from what Hank left. Honesty, simplicity, totally American, couldn't be anything else. And as I say, that kind of direct, unexaggerated, undramatic and yet deeply felt performer.
You knew Paul Newman years ago through live television, didn't
Right,
you? Mm-hmm.
right.
Was he a good actor then, or was he an actor with potential, or how would you describe
He
him?
was always completely talented. The problem was he was always pushing himself, so that the result was a kind of strained overacting and over-eagerness to please, not please the director necessarily, but to please himself. And it brought a kind of tension into his work that really prevented feeling from happening. And nobody was more aware of it than Paul. He's very bright and knows a lot about himself and his own acting. And one of the joys for him on The Verdict has been that how effortless it was, despite the tremendous amount of work he put into it, but how free he finally felt, so that on takes they would vary enormously. He felt relaxed enough to try things, and I think the results show it. He's brilliant in it.
Does he ever get nervous before certain kinds of scenes?
He has to literally change his socks 4 times a day, because you'll take that shoe off and you can pour water out of it at the end of the day. He works, and the tension for him is enormous. It's true of all good actors.
That's what comedians call flop sweat.
No, that's when it's up here.
Oh,
up
I
here
see.
he stays cool as can be.
I see, okay. Sidney, how nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Congratulations on The Verdict. It is a super fine movie.
Thank you.
And I'll see a bunch of your people, hopefully you too, come
Check
the Oscars.
you in March.
All right, sir. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Wonderful interview.
Cut.
So good to... And sound. Are you aware of all this Oscar nomination talk? It seems to me, Sidney, that the Academy does in some ways discriminate against, excuse me. It seems to me, Sidney, in some ways the Academy does discriminate against New York-based projects. Do you have that feeling? What is your favorite recollection of Henry Fonda? In some ways, 12 Angry Men and The Verdict are similar, aren't they? If you were doing 12 Angry Men today, would you cast Newman? If you were doing 12 Angry Men today, would you cast Newman in the Fonda role? Okay. I guess there was one other question right at the end. What was it? Well, that's all right. I don't need it for everyone. Okay. I guess that'll do. Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
There was one other question.